Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Friday, August 30th. Before we get into today's plays of the day, we'll quickly recap what happened yesterday. Our winning streak ended up continuing as we ended up picking up a winner with Georgia Tech first half under 6 points, which was available at minus 105 on 5 dimes. Definitely a bigger sweat than I originally anticipated. Clemson pretty much dominated the entire first half. They had a couple of turnovers that I thought might kill us. Fumble in the first couple of minutes. Then Lawrence threw an awful interception. But his hustle ended up leading to Georgia Tech getting tackled at roughly the 4-yard line. And Clemson ended up having a goal line stand as Georgia Tech was unable to score any points. And we picked up another winner in college football, which brings our college football record to 2-1. I forgot what the exact unit count is, but we're up right now, and hopefully that'll carry over. Now, a quick announcement here. I was supposed to do a joint episode with Scott Steen and talk about some college football games on Friday. However, due to some technical difficulties, that is actually going to be happening tomorrow. So stay tuned for that, as Scott Steen and I will be talking about some games on the Saturday card, roughly at noon Eastern time tomorrow. However, that is also good news for all of you, how because of the fact that I thought I was going to be making a video with Scott Steen, I actually prepared 3 plays instead of 1. So instead of getting 1 play of the day, I will be providing you with a trifecta of plays on some college football matchups here tonight. So without further ado, we're going to dive into the first one. These plays are in no particular order. They're all going to be for a unit, so just keep that in mind. The first play will be on the Wisconsin Badgers at minus 10.5, which is available at minus 105 at Heritage. I personally got this number yesterday at minus 10, which is a very nice key number to get. However, it is pretty much available market-wide at minus 10.5. It originally opened up at minus 9.5, but it's up to 11 at Bovada and 10.5 pretty much market-wide. Main reason why I like Wisconsin in this game is based on just the conflicting styles. How's it going, Terry? Thanks for joining us. First of all, Wisconsin announced Jack Cohen as their team starting quarterback about last week. Now, some people might know Wisconsin is actually the school that I graduated from, so I'm pretty well versed in the team's roster, and I'm pretty familiar with how they play because I got to watch them play numerous times over the last couple of seasons. Wisconsin is known for their physicality and their pretty average quarterback play at best. Jack Cohen, is he a great quarterback? No. However, I think he's better than Alex Hornibrook, who was starter for the majority of last season. How's it going, Big X? Thanks for joining us. Hornibrook was a turnover machine. Cohen, as he ended up taking over due to Hornibrook's concussion issues. Was Cohen great? No. However, I thought he was a pretty serviceable game manager. He limited mistakes for the most part, and he pretty much let Wisconsin move drives by not turning the ball over, which I think is something that Wisconsin has needed after Hornibrook continued to make awful decisions in the pocket for the last couple of seasons. Wisconsin's offense is predicated, obviously, on the rushing attack with Heisman candidate Jonathan Taylor, who led the nation in rushing with 2,194 rushing yards last year and 16 rushing touchdowns. Cohen, don't get me wrong, he can make some throws to Ferguson maybe. I know Cephas is back, but I'm questioning how active he will be after he was officially named eligible a week or two ago. They still have Pryor. They still have some big weapons. But overall, Wisconsin is going to love to run the ball. I know they lost a decent amount of starting offensive linemen over the offseason, but Wisconsin is known for being offensive lineman university, as they have been able to produce some very solid prospects out of the offensive line. And everyone, once again, is still going to be roughly 6'5", 300 pounds. I think they'll dominate the line of scrimmage. I think Taylor should run for 200 yards. And I think that Wisconsin should be able to control the time possession and win this game pretty easily. Now, it is also worth mentioning South Florida has Blake Barnett, who's still in college somehow, former Alabama quarterback. Last year, 12 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Not much to write home about. Plus, you have conflicting styles, which I mentioned before. South Florida is a very finesse and speed-oriented team. They like to spread you out. They like to throw a bunch of screens. They like to do some delayed handoffs, a little bit of a mobile quarterback. Wisconsin does the opposite. They will just give the ball to the running back and run it down your throats. They'll run it up the middle, nothing really fancy. They know that they can get 5 yards at any time they want just by running it up the middle. And I think that these type of styles definitely favor Wisconsin, as they should be able to just wear down the South Florida defensive line and the secondary as a whole, just trying to tackle Jonathan Taylor for 4 quarters. I definitely think that South Florida is going to get gassed. And I think that Wisconsin's defense, although they lost some big pieces like TJ Edwards and Van Ginkel to their defensive core, they weren't that great last year, but now they have more experience. Their secondary is still a concern. but Barnett's definitely not a pinpoint accuracy thrower, so I'm not really that concerned. Plus, it is worth mentioning that the weather actually is going to favor Wisconsin. Everyone knows that in the Florida area, you've had hurricane warnings of Hurricane Dorian. Now, even though the hurricane will not hit this area directly, it is still supposed to rain with some wind. And in these really potentially awful conditions, there's only one thing that I like to bet on, and that's a team that can run the ball. And I know for a fact that Wisconsin, whether it's rain or shine, will run the ball continuously. And I know that if the wind is a factor and if the rain's a factor, that I expect Barnett to struggle. I think Cohen will not play well either, but I definitely think that Cohen will rely more on the rushing attack. And I think that South Florida's defensive line is simply overmatched. So for that reason, I will lean to Wisconsin minus 10.5, which is available at minus 105 on Heritage. Now, the next game is going to be on a total, and it will be between Oklahoma State and Oregon State. And we like the over 71.5, which is available at minus 110 at Bookmaker. Main reason here, just simply put, both teams have solid offenses and terrible defenses. Oklahoma State returns 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen, and Oregon State gave up 294.2 rushing yards last year per game, which was the second most in the nation. So Oklahoma State has Hubbard, who is the new running back after Justice Hill officially went to the NFL. So I expect Hubbard to play well. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State also plays no huddle under Coach Mike Gundy, so you should see a significant amount of plays. Oregon State also ranked 101st in pass defense and allowed a whopping 45.7 points per game last season. So Oklahoma State should have no issues moving the ball through the air either. It is worth mentioning that Oregon State does return a lot from last year's defense, but I know that you're returning some pieces. At the same point, if your defense gave up 45.7 points per game, even if they have more experience, your defense probably wasn't that talented in the first place. So I personally don't think that that should stop Oklahoma State from scoring 40-plus in this game. It's also worth mentioning that Oklahoma State allowed 32.4 points per game last season. They now have 6 of their front 7 replaced. So the front 7, they lost 6 of them. So you definitely are going to have some inexperience there. And Oregon State has an elite running back in Jermar Jefferson, who ran for 1,380 yards last season. I think he'll do well, not to mention the fact that Oregon State still has their senior quarterback, Jake Luton, who came back. They also have some key receivers like Isaiah Hodgins, who had 876 receiving yards. I think Oregon State is an awful team because they have no defense. But however, I do think their offense is capable of scoring at least 30-plus against Oklahoma State. The weather is also going to be great. It's going to be roughly 77 degrees and sunny with little to no wind. I think this game, both teams should get into the high 30s, low 40s. I think this game is going to actually be closer than people anticipate. But overall, the only issue Oklahoma State has is their quarterback play. They ended up losing Cornelius last season, who was their starter. I did not think he was that great. They got a transfer in from Hawaii who's likely to be the starter, but I would not be surprised to see Oklahoma State use a dual quarterback system, as they have not formally named a starter for this game. Other than that, though, Oregon State's defense, I still expect to give up 40-plus points. Oklahoma State's not great either. And Oklahoma State and Oregon State are both content with running pretty hurry-up offenses. Oklahoma State's definitely a little bit faster. But with the amount of plays and the amount of firepower on both offenses and the little to no playmakers on both sides on defense, I have to lean to the over 71.5. Money it's roughly stayed at 72 throughout, but I definitely am going to lean to the over. And I think that this game should end somewhere in the realm of I think it's going to be relatively close. I think it might be 45 to 38, give or take, 45 to 41 or so. I think Oregon State might cover this because it's in Oregon State, so I think that does help. But at the same point, I'll lean to the over, and that's going to be the second play of the day. And the third play is going to be on a rivalry matchup between the Colorado Buffaloes and the Colorado State Rams. And in this matchup, we like the home team here with Colorado, and we like them at minus 13, which is available at Bookmaker at minus 115. So Colorado minus 13, minus 115 at Bookmaker. Now, there's a lot of reasons why I like this play as well. First reason is the fact that Colorado is significantly more talent than Colorado State. Last season, Colorado State allowed 451.5 total yards per game, and they also gave up 36.8 points per game on defense, including a Mountain West Conference worst 219.5 yards on the ground. This Colorado State defense is an absolute mess, and I don't think that they're going to resolve any of those issues. So I expect them to continue struggling. Also, it's worth mentioning, Colorado brings back some key personnel. Steven Montez, the quarterback for this program for the last couple of years, is back. And last year, he absolutely torched Colorado State as he ended up totaling 338 yards with 4 touchdowns. He completed 22 of 25 passes, and Colorado won last year 45-13. I think that Montez should continue his success against Colorado State. The defense is still terrible. It's also worth mentioning that Colorado is going to get star receiver Laviska Shenault Jr. back, who was unbelievable last year. He had 1,011 receiving yards and 86 receptions in just 9 games. So he was averaging over 100 yards receiving per game. He was fantastic. How's it going, Jeff? Thanks for joining us. Now, it's worth mentioning that Shenault Jr. against Colorado State last year had 11 receptions for 211 yards and a touchdown. Colorado State couldn't guard him, and now he's healthy after dealing with some injuries at the end of last season, which helps explain why Colorado fell apart at the end of last season. Montez is back. Shenault is back. Colorado State's defense is still terrible. And overall, I definitely think Colorado should get the job done. Colorado State also lost 2 star receivers, its leading rusher, and 3 starting offensive linemen. I expect this offense to be a mess. I think Colorado is going to hold them to roughly 20 points or less, and I think Colorado should get into the 30s. So based on that, you also have Colorado State's starting quarterback has been announced. It will be Colin Hill, who's a junior quarterback. However, he has missed a season and a half with 2 ACL injuries. So they have a junior quarterback with pretty much no experience in college due to some injuries that have affected his availability. Plus, it's also worth mentioning that Colorado has absolutely owned this series. Colorado has won 4 straight over Colorado's won 4 straight over Colorado State by an average margin of 21.5 points. And Colorado State is also trailing the all-time series 66-22. So Colorado's owned them recently, owned them historically, and it's a significantly better roster. There's a reason why this line has jumped from 10.5 to 13, and 13.5 in most spots. I think Colorado's going to smack them. And for that reason, I will lean to Colorado. I've already bet all of these plays personally, but the third play of the day will be on Colorado, getting the job done at minus 13.5. Minus 13, which is available at Bookmaker at minus 115. So if you're just joining us, the 3 plays of the day for Friday, August 30th, will be Wisconsin minus 10.5, which is at Heritage at minus 105. The Oklahoma State, Oregon State over 71.5, which is available at minus 110 at Bookmaker. And Colorado minus 13, which is available at minus 115 at Bookmaker. Other than that, though, quick reminder of our sponsor, PointsBet, all in sportsbook in New Jersey. Couple of great deals for you. Up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So if you end up betting on college football, preseason football, WNBA, tennis, anything, and you end up losing, you simply get your money back, which is a great promotion I wish more sportsbooks would use. Other than that, though, that's going to do for this installment of Scott Selections here for Friday, August 30th. I already told all of you tomorrow I will be doing a joint episode with Scott Steen, and we will be covering some Saturday games. So overall, I'm looking forward to that, and I hope all of you are too. Quick question from Jeff, my thoughts on the Army game. On that one, I have to lean to Army. I think Rice is terrible. I gave Rice under 2.5 wins as one of my team total futures from a couple of days ago. At the same point, money's coming on Army. They're at 22 at Bet Online. They're at 23.5, pretty much market wide. So if you have a Bet Online, you get a 1.5 of value. Both teams won't score that much. Total's down to 47-48. But overall, I got to lean to Army. I know that it's one thing to prepare for a triple option. It's another thing to see Army's triple option. I think Army's going to do whatever they want. I think Army should score 30-plus points, and I think that Rice will score 10. I think Army's going to control time possession. I don't think Rice is going to score that much. And for me, I will take Army. I'll lean to Army for that, Jeff, but I'm not going to have any money on it personally. Other than that, though, that's going to do for this installment of Scott Selections here for Friday, August 30th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.